So you've heard all the great things we've done with AI when it comes down to simplifying operations, the AI-driven support, what we are doing with wireless, what we are doing with wired and our colorless ports, the dynamic port profile, what we're doing with WAN by bringing the SRX under the Mist cloud, and all the automation that Calvin showed you with everything that we do leveraging our APIs. What I'm showing you now is another facet of how the network can help, not just network IT, but also lines of business. And this is all about contact tracing. We've all been living with this global pandemic situation for about close to 6 months now. And the question on everybody's mind is, hey, will the world ever go back to normal again? What is the new normal? And what we came out with was, as enterprises, as higher education, as retail, as healthcare, retail, healthcare, essential services, manufacturing, warehousing, they have to keep have their associates coming into the building. There is no other option. But when it comes down to the enterprise space, all of us have been working from home for the last 6 months. I actually showed up here in the office today just for this recording, and nobody's here, as expected. But the key point here was, how can the network do more? Yes, the network is providing mobility. Yes, the network is providing visibility and making sure that we can all do our work effectively within the enterprise space as well as at home. But more importantly, when we come back to work, whether it's a student going back to a university, whether it's an elementary school kid going back to school, or whether it's us as employees come back to the campus, what can the enterprise do to make it safe again? And that's where, from a network perspective, leveraging our directional Bluetooth antenna array that you see here on the slide built into every access point, we were able to package our mobile engagement solution, our asset visibility solution, and our analytics solution to deliver a very comprehensive proximity tracing aspect for our customers. Now, what I'll show you here is this badge. At Juniper, since June, since they said that 10% of the essential user population coming back into campus, we have actually deployed this solution as I speak within our campuses here in the US as well as internationally. And what we're doing here is, each of our regular badges, this is my Juniper badge, we've actually attached a Bluetooth stick-on that you see here that now helps me to get located, or rather my badge gets located no matter where I am on campus. Now, the question is, why is that important? The first idea you get is, what, you're tracking me, you're locating me? The answer is no. I am not being located. What is being located is an anonymous badge ID. And the question then becomes, why is that badge being located? Well, in the current pandemic situation, there are three key use cases that the safety, security, facilities team in every vertical are trying to solve for. The first one is user journey mapping. If a person comes in and self-identifies that they have tested COVID positive, your typical contact tracing exercise is all about interviewing the person, asking them where they have been the last 24 hours, the last 48 hours, the last week, the last 2 weeks. They are anyway so anxious that they have COVID now, and what does it mean for them and their family? Being able to consistently and reliably be able to answer your questions as to where you were, where your movements were the last 2 weeks, you're not going to get the full picture. So what does that leave as an option for the safety security teams? They have to now look at their CCTV feeds and try and manually piece together the movements they would have caught of you if you report self as positive, and try to piece it together to know where your movements were. What does that translate to? Hours and hours of time, and therefore dollars, of the facilities team, the safety team, security team trying to piece together your user journey mapping. So wouldn't it be nice if there was a system that could programmatically tell you by the click of a button where a particular badge was or where a particular device was? And that's exactly what we did here with the Mist Juniper solution. So leveraging that directional Bluetooth antenna array built into every access point, leveraging location services, be it a mobile app with the Mist SDK, be it a badge like we have here at Juniper, which is a Bluetooth-enabled badge now, or be it even Wi-Fi devices connecting to the network. We are now able to provide location for the devices, and with that location, feed that into three very specific use cases. The first is the journey mapping. So if a person declares themselves as COVID positive, you could now go into the system, enter their badge ID or their device name, and very quickly get an answer as to where all on the campus, and which building, on which floor, on which conference room, on which desk area they have been on. Why is that important? That triggers the whole cleaning workflow, because you want to now dispatch cleaning crews ASAP to mitigate further exposure as other people go into the same areas. The second question we're able to now answer is not just where this person was, but while they were in conference room ABC and desk areas ABC, who else was there while they were there? And that is what we call proximity tracing. So we're able to tell you now what other badges, what other devices were in your proximity while you were spending time in a particular area on campus or a school or a higher ed facility. And that is gives you the blast radius of who all you need to notify, because you now know that they may have spent 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes with this person who has now tested COVID positive. The last use case, but by no means the least, and this is more about a proactive mitigation, is all around congestion alerting. And what that does is it's looking at all the Wi-Fi signal or the number of badges or the mobile apps in a particular area. And based on the new social norm, what is a new social norm? Given the current practices of social distancing, what was previously a 20 people conference room is now a 6 people conference room. What was a 200 student auditorium is now a 50 student auditorium. But how do you ensure that those new occupancy rules are being followed? And this is where our congestion alerting solution comes into play, because now not only can we locate the number of devices in a certain area or the badges or mobile apps with the MIST SDK in that area, but we can also trigger automated alerts if the occupancy of any area on campus, in the building, on the floor goes beyond the allowed capacity, which is based on the new social distancing norms. So congestion alerting, journey mapping, proximity tracing are the three key use cases that the network itself now is able to deliver for, either working with a mobile app with the MIST SDK or deploying employee badges, which are now Bluetooth enabled, to add to your current badges, or leveraging just your Wi-Fi devices. A lot of our customers start with Wi-Fi, but when they want to get to more granular location, they are looking to leverage the Bluetooth capabilities, either going with the mobile app, which is what we see as very common in the higher ed vertical, or leveraging these Bluetooth enabled stick-ons to your current badges to get an idea of proximity, of user journey, and congestion alerting, leveraging that source of data for location services. Here is a brief demonstration of the user journey mapping and the proximity tracing solution. In this case, I'll be demonstrating to you how we can use connected Wi-Fi devices as a source of truth for knowing what are all the areas that a particular device was seen in, how long they were there, and more importantly, who else was there based on a certain encounter length. So in this case, we'll take our same live demo organization you've been seeing so far in our demos. We've put in an encounter length of 5 minutes. We are using Wi-Fi as a source of data. And very quickly for this MIST lab test device, the response that the system gives is that this device in the last 5 days was seen in 2 areas with at least 5 other devices in proximity for a minimum of 5 minutes. So here is a 15-minute by 15-minute view of the user journey mapping of this device, what all zones it was in. And more importantly, while it was in that zone, what are the other devices that were seen as well that spent at least 5 minutes in any session. Now, as you can imagine, in an enterprise mobility situation, you may meet the same person multiple times. What we're looking at is no matter how many times you may have come in proximity of a person, it's not the 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute intervals that matter. What matters is, did you have at least one session where you spent at least 5 minutes or more with that other device? And that's what we call out as part of our user journey mapping proximity tracing report. The third aspect here also is what we call compliance reporting. So now that we can now get occupancy numbers for all the areas, we can actually measure whether or not all the areas on campus have been compliant to the allowed occupancy. This is important because enterprises are being asked for proof of enabling social distancing, and now they can actually give a report to the auditor saying, yes, I have social distancing deployed on my campus. This is what my areas of occupancy look like. I do have certain zones that are perpetual offenders at a certain timestamp. I have other zones that are mostly green, and they are following social distancing norms. So this is an example of how, by leveraging just the same MIST infrastructure that gives you assurance for Wi-Fi clients, for wired clients, and including WAN data for application experience, that same network leveraging now the Bluetooth array into every AP can be used for enabling proximity tracing solutions around user journey mapping and compliance of zones with occupancy. The other thing we also built, and in line with all the automation that you saw that Calvin demonstrated, what we also enabled was an integration with the ServiceNow platform. So in addition to ServiceNow doing all the IT-based operations for ticketing and provisioning sites, etc., ServiceNow also has a safe workplace application suite, which enables the full end-to-end case management workflow specifically to the needs of contact tracing. So within the ServiceNow platform, you have an application that will ask you for your healthcare symptoms. There'll be an application that will enable you to create tickets for cleaning workflows. And that same application is now able to ingest the missed location data, be it on Wi-Fi or be it on Bluetooth, and is able to deliver for you that same contact tracing view that we were showing earlier within the MIST portal. So it's that same source of location. It could be Wi-Fi based, it could be Bluetooth badge based, but the customers who are now using ServiceNow, the safe workplace applications, can now leverage the benefits of that ServiceNow platform, extending to not just the static contact tracing based on who's just scanned their badge into the building, but get a real-time view leveraging the real-time location services from either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth badges into the ServiceNow platform and see who was in proximity of Abel, who is the example here that we are choosing, who has self-identified to be COVID positive. And based on Abel's location, we're able to now pull in the information in real time from the MIS system, and you will be able to now use the ServiceNow Safe Workplace Application Suite to not only get a view of where all Abel has been, but more importantly, while Abel was all in those areas on the building, on campus, who else was there along with him that now needs to be notified? And where the ServiceNow platform takes it to the next level is that they have the full notification engine also built in, where not only can they leverage the missed location data to get that blast radius for proximity of who was in proximity of Abel, who is reported to be as COVID positive, but how to also notify David Liu, for example, who has been in proximity of Abel for the 5 minutes or 10 minutes of time, leveraging the ServiceNow platform to send those notifications as well. So leverage the MIS portal for reporting directly on location data, or leverage the APIs and enable that automation via ServiceNow to do the end-to-end workflow management, case management for proximity notifications.
So right at the very beginning of this, you said that the Bluetooth tag was just an anonymous Bluetooth tag and it's not tracking you.
That is correct. And the reason I say that is because unlike the mobile apps, which get downloaded on our phone, then we all have concerns about privacy or what information a mobile app can collect. The Bluetooth badge essentially is an anonymous, numeric alpha string. So as you can see, my badge here has some random numbers on it. And that's the only information that is being tracked in the MIS system. That this badge ID 1234 has been seen in area A, area B, area C. And once I go in and God forbid, but let's say I have tested COVID positive, I go into my Juniper safety security team and say, hey, I've tested COVID positive. They will go into the MIS system. They will enter that badge 1234 ID, and they will be able to see all the areas that this badge was seen in. Now, nobody else.
And then they see that you've been in contact with badge 34567 and say, who's that? So in other words, the company still has a lookup. They still have a table. They have to have a table of everyone's badge ID and name. Otherwise, contact tracing doesn't work.
You're absolutely right. But that's where the privacy boundaries are maintained, because nobody from a network IT perspective has a view of what's being tracked or who's being located. It's only on an as-need basis. And this is information only the security team will have. In fact, the reporting system we built also has very strict user policies that only the security team can access that and not the network IT teams, to ensure that privacy is maintained. So there is an offline mapping of badge ID to an associate, which is only the privilege of the HR and security teams, but everybody else on the network has no knowledge of who is where at any point in time.
So that's the important thing, is that you have security around the data so that no one can just look it up, because if anyone can look it up, both GDPR and CCPA will have major issues, because that's the kind of user. Because even though it's a Bluetooth, an anonymous Bluetooth tag, it's assigned to a badge that is not anonymous. You have your own badge assigned to you. Those two
exactly, and that's an important distinction, because in a lot of occupancy tracking software, the actual identity of the person is not relevant, and you can actually literally just put a bunch of Bluetooth tags in the office in a basket when you walk in and say, grab one, doesn't matter what the number is, stick it on your ID badge. because all we want to know is how many people are where. Right?
Exactly.
They literally don't care about having a lookup table for contact tracing. They don't need to know who has what badge. That's truly anonymous. They just know that somebody in the office was sitting in that area. Whereas in this case, it's anonymous in the software, but it's important to understand from a compliance perspective that somebody somewhere, HR or whoever, it is actually tracking you, and people are paranoid. But somebody somewhere can see where you've been, right? Ultimately.
The somebody somewhere being the safety team. In fact, what we're doing at Juniper is, as we're getting handed these badges out to add to our identity badge, we're actually signing a contract to say that lets us know that this is why these badges are being handed out, their safety and privacy is completely maintained, and this is only being enabled for the HR security teams to access in case somebody reports to be COVID positive. But to the other point you made, right, about badges being given in a basket and people are just picking it up, this is exactly what I'm going to show you now. So this is the congestion alerting use case that I mentioned, where I'm just counting signals. Those signals could be Wi-Fi devices, those signals could be Bluetooth badges, those signals could be mobile apps that I'm locating. But in real time, I can give you now this dashboard to the security team, to the safety team, where all they're looking at is, what are all my zones in my building? Are they compliant or not to my occupancy rules in real time? And if a zone becomes non-compliant, I can create alerts to be sent out to the security team specifically. Again, the security team does not need to have any access to the networking portal, but all they will get is an automated alert saying, hey, this zone and this floor on this building is non-compliant because of occupancy rules. I can also now enable what we call a public dashboard. So working with a lot of retailers, hospitality customers, and even healthcare, where you have a lot of population coming in that may not necessarily be badged or will connect to your Wi-Fi, but you are getting passive signal. This is where we had the ability to create what we call a public dashboard, where we create a QR code mapped to a particular location, and then the retail owner, the mall owner, the hospitality group can essentially paste this QR code at various entry points, so that when shoppers come in, when visitors come in, when guests come in, all they would do is scan that QR code and just get a very simple view of what is my congestion points like, so that they can self-police and choose not to go in certain areas. So not only is something that can be used by the security teams to avoid congestion in the enterprise space, but even in public venues and where you have anonymous people coming in, you're not handing badges out, you're not doing any kind of mobile app downloads, but you are still locating passive signals, be it Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, using that to calculate congestion and then give that information just by scanning a simple QR code, so that when shoppers, visitors come in, they can make the decision themselves on where they want to go when they enter a mall or when they enter a beach or some such. So that's another key aspect we were able to provide just from the base Mist infrastructure, leveraging our Wi-Fi, our Bluetooth arrays, meeting, again, multiple use cases, be it user journey, proximity tracing, or just congestion alerting for both the security team as well as the visitors themselves when they come in.
Out of curiosity, and this might be out of the scope of it, can you add more security on there? So for instance, going through like a ServiceNOW automation, so that way, even though the security guy has access to it, he can't just go in and say, I just want to look up where this person is at this time.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously the system support SSO, and even with the security team, you can restrict access to who are in security have access versus, all members. So that can absolutely be done. Any other questions?
I was going to ask, and this is the classic occupancy tracking problem, especially with Wi-Fi, of if you have an AP on a wall and then you have the wall of an office and then you have somebody sitting on the other side of that wall, from both for contact tracing and for occupancy, that's always a mess because they're contacting, it's the closest AP, even though it's through a wall, and according to occupancy, they're right there. And I was wondering if you'd had any creative solutions to that in the software, and whether it's able to say, I see it's in that direction, and that doesn't make sense because my diagram here says that there's something in the way. Therefore, I'm going to conclude it could not possibly be in the same room. Is it? If it's that smart.
So it's either do that, or there's a reason why we deployed badges at Juniper, because Wi-Fi, like you said, has these various problems. First of all, the accuracy of Wi-Fi. It's good to answer question as to what is my congestion like in certain areas. But when you have 5 people conference rooms, 10 people conference rooms, 10 areas which have 10 desks, 5 desks, Wi-Fi will not give you the right answers all the time, like you're rightly pointing out. And the other problem with Wi-Fi also is, like you said, I have a mobile phone and I have a laptop. I go for a meeting, I may leave my laptop at my desk and just go with the mobile phone. So where am I really, right? And to avoid all that, as I call it, noisy data, to get to more precision location, that's where the Bluetooth array came in really handy. Because now by just handing out these Bluetooth stick-ons to our current badges, we're able to now more precisely locate. So I don't have the problem of if my AP is here, is my badge in this room or is my badge outside the conference room? I don't have the problem of if I have a 10 desk area, is my badge in my neighboring 10 desk area or this desk area? So by going the Bluetooth route, which is part of the same AP, and the reason it's different from every other vendor out there is because every other vendor has built a Bluetooth radio right into the AP, but it's just omnidirectional. So it's as good as Wi-Fi. It's a 5 meter, 10 meter radius. But by leveraging the directionality we have built into the access points, by leveraging the cloud services, we're able to deliver that, a 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter accuracy, mobile app, badge. And that is what is giving us a lot of benefit. It's giving our customers a lot of benefit because they're able to get precision location, whether it's zone-based or distance-based, to meet all these 3 use cases and not have to worry about, jittery location or noisy location because you have so many sources of data. So that's how we are solving the problem.
So that's that directionality in the Bluetooth. That's a real market differentiator for the MISP.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And thanks again, everybody, for the great discussion. I really just wanted to quickly wrap up here. So, we've gone across client to cloud, as we talked about, from wireless, wired, WAN, and then automation. I think it was really exciting just to see how you can tie these things together. So I think a call out to folks as well is really to start learning how to actually automate your network, just to reduce the time you spend managing and upping it. If you want to learn more, go to mist.com/NFD23. We'll actually have a link to the recordings once they go up on Tech Field Day, as well as other resources. We've got a couple of recent webinars. We had experts from Walmart, Dartmouth College on a recent one. We've got a couple upcoming ones there as well. So thanks again for joining, everybody.